we start a discussion of what is Finnish Beer Union, mikä on Olutliitto, puhutaan vähän siitä, mutta tämä keskustelu käydään englannin kielellä. What is European Beer Consumers Union? Henri, you represent big organization, almost 300,000 members. We have few thousand here in Finland. What is EBCU and how do you find the beer situation here in Finland? Two hard questions for you.
Okay. I think I'd like to do it like that. First of all, I'd like to say kiitos to you, Heikki. There's two words I know in Finnish. It's kiitos and olut. And that gets me by very good. Thank you for inviting the European Beer Consumers Union to speak on such a great festival. And it's great to be back in Helsinki because 3 years ago we had our General Assembly here. And one of my big discoveries then was exactly what I'm drinking now, that's Sahti. Because that's a beer which is really, really Finnish. You cannot taste it somewhere else, and it has such a history and has such a nice and complex taste. It was for me really a discovery that beer can be like this as well. Okay, you asked me to explain a little bit what is EBCU and what it stands for. EBCU is the European Beer Consumers Union, and that's a federation of 13 independent national beer consumers union, all across Europe. So our members, they are in Finland in the north, but also in Italy in the south, in Ireland in the west, in Poland in the east. You have been a little bit too optimistic. We have about 220,000 members, not 300,000, but still a lot of people. And I think we are the voice of the European beer consumer. And most of the associations have been established to fight for beer culture, to keep the beer culture where it is. And the beer consumers, of course, are discerning beer consumers because the ones who just drink their beer and just swivel it down, they tend not to be organized. But beer, and that's something to realize, beer is the only foodstuff that has a dedicated consumers organization in Europe. There is not such an organization of whiskey sniffers or milk drinkers or even wine drinkers. Only there is an association of beer drinkers in Europe. And that should say and tell you something. That should tell you that beer is a product to be passionate about. It's a product which is natural and healthy. And it's a product that brings people together, as we can see downstairs and we can see here. And I give an illustration of this. Last month I was in Brussels, and all the bars, on a Friday evening, all the bars were full of people enjoying beer. Not only men, women, young and old, just enjoying a good beer and enjoying each other's company. This summer I was in Bilbao, and in Bilbao at lunchtime I saw people drinking, and it's called, I forgot the name of it, Zurito. And a Zurito is a very small glass. It looks like a wine glass, but there's beer in it. And people are enjoying that with the pintos, with the tapas, just at lunchtime. Just a few beers, but just because it's so good to compare with food. But I could have gone to Prague, I could have gone to Copenhagen, I would see the same. People enjoying beer, it's part of our culture in Europe. Because beer is so natural, we tend to take it for granted. And that is a big mistake. Because beer should be nurtured. We should take care of it and we should not neglect it. Because otherwise the powers that are against beer, and in Finland they're very strong, they will take over. So because beer is such a normal drink for many people, it never ceases to amaze me that the public debate and the political debate is often dominated by the health issue of overconsumption. And health officials tend to speak on behalf of the consumer in general. And they will focus because on the negative aspects of overconsumption. It's their work, they're working in the health business. But that's not a good view of reality. Because the majority of people, as you know, drink beer in moderation. Even the European Commission says 85% drink it in moderation. And even the World Health Organization say, okay, you can drink and still be healthy. So maybe not for nutrition beer is necessary, but I think beer is necessary for your social health and for your mental health. It is like a social lubricant. It really brings people together. So I say beer is a necessity of life. I think one of the first necessities of life is beer. And I think we should focus on that. Okay, EBCU, because it's a voluntary organization, we're totally made of volunteers. My trip here to Helsinki was paid by beer consumers all over Europe, and I'm standing here in my own time, and my wife, I just called her, thinks I'm crazy, because she thinks I should be with her. But I love beer, I'd love to be here with you. It's a voluntary organization, I think I should stress that, and we don't get any payment from the beer industry. We do this really for the love of beer. Because it's a voluntary organization, we don't have a lot of funds, we don't have a lot of time, so we have to focus. And we focus on 3 points in Europe. And the first one is diversity. The second one is information. And the third one is cost. And I'll talk to them one after another. The first one is diversity. We published a manifesto last year, and where we state that the consumers have the right of choice and should be able to select from different manufacturers' products at any shop or bar selling beer. And in particular, the markets need to be accessible for products from small brewers and not only from the big ones. And we have the choice not only in different beers, but also in different styles of beer, everywhere where beer is sold. And in the European level, the laws more or less align with what we want. And the only exception maybe is that big brewers are allowed to tie certain bars that you can only drink their brands there. And that's something we are opposed against. And the other thing that the European Union sometimes does is make so many difficult rules that it's hard for small breweries to comply. But in individual countries, and Finland, I'm sorry to say, is one of the worst ones, the consumer choice is very limited. The beers in the supermarkets, I went to the supermarket this morning, are limited to 4.7% alcohol. And of course that gives you some choice, but it cannot show all the beauty that beer is, like the Sati we were talking about. And I think we should raise the glass for Sati. But, so, there's actually only one outlet that's providing the other interesting beers above 4.7% alcohol. And that's the state monopoly. And with this setup, the consumer is dependent on the whims of one single buyer of one single outlet. So there's actually one guy deciding which beers you can drink and which beers you cannot buy. And as a child, I only knew the word monopoly from a board game. I learned the hard way that the monopoly is seldom a good thing, and I don't think it is here. Because by limiting sales in this way, especially innovation, and especially from smaller brewers, is severely hampered. The process of being selected is on the shelves of alcohol is so cumbersome and so difficult that many brewers cannot comply. And especially not for limited edition beers like Christmas beers. And they are the joy of the beer consumer. In Sweden we have the same kind of monopoly. And they change the rules in such a way that it's almost impossible for Swedish brewers and even Danish brewers to come on the shelves. And as EBCU we are calling on the European Commission to change that, because we think that's a limitation to the free flow of goods. And I think something should happen like that in Finland as well. Because having only one person buying your beer, it puts diversity at risk, it puts your beer culture at risk. And I was totally surprised. 3 years ago we went to a brewery and they made magnificent beers. I said, oh, I'd like to take some of those beers home. They told you can't. Well, you can, but I cannot sell them to you. I said, but you make the beers. No, but I cannot sell them, you have to go to Elco. So I went to Elko and they said, no, we don't carry the beer. So I'm like, here I'm a catch-22. I like the beer is being made, but there's no way for me to find it somewhere to buy it. And but buy it in Tallinn, yeah, well. No, but that's a weird situation. And what I really don't understand is that if you're a wine producer, you are allowed to sell. And that's something really strange. I think every producer should have the right to sell his or her own product at his own location. And we should fight for that. Because most, it's like tourism. Look to Belgium, look to the Czech Republic. If you go there, people drink beer in moderation. They're very proud. They take you around all the kind of breweries. It's even a touristic asset. And I think I would be in Finland and many more people even more often if we could go to breweries and enjoy the beer and take some of the beer home with us. And the second point is information. We very strongly believe when you drink beer, you put something in your body. That's about the most intimate thing you can do. In Europe, for alcoholic drinks, it is not necessary to put on the label what's in it, who made it, and where it was produced. There is no limitation. You don't have to put it. You only have to put allergens on it. So you see on a beer bottle, for instance, contains barley, and all of a sudden I see on the wine bottle contains sulfite. Contains sulfite? I thought wine was only crushed grapes. Luckily, you don't see contains sulfite on beer, but you see it on the wine bottle. But we think that there should be on every bottle what's in it, who made it, and where it's made. In Finland, I know the brewers already do that. The winemakers not. So the Finnish brewers are way ahead. But that's supposed to be made for Europe. So how can you expect me to make an informed choice if I don't know what's in the beer, who made it, and where was it made? I can only know who sold it and before what date I should drink it. But there's something else with information, and that's here in Finland. I understand that the alcohol law or the advertisement law is changing. And you can almost say nothing anymore about beer. And that is a real threat, especially to special beers. Because if that happens, you can never innovate again. Because how are you going to explain that you made a new beer? How are you going to explain the specific properties of it? So this kind of ban on information, one, it keeps people stupid, and they keep on believing in Santa Claus. But believing in Santa Claus is a good thing, but not telling about beer, I think, is a very bad thing. And the other thing, it will keep the big breweries big, and will keep the small breweries only small. So I think that's something really to fight about. And for instance, the European Beer Consumers Union, I understand that as of the 1st January 2015, if I would stand here, I would be the European Beer Consumers Union or something like that. That would still be EBCU, but it is very strange. I think the freedom of speech is very important, and also within Europe we will fight about that. I think consumers should be able to make a well-informed choice, and a well-informed choice you can only make if you have good information. Well, the last thing is cost. And here again, Finland, not Europe, Finland is doing the excessive thing. The minimum excise in Europe only says minimum excise. On wine, anyone knows how much the excise on wine is? Minimum in Europe? Zero, zilch. On beer, it is 10 euros per hectoliter, per 100 liters. Nobody still has been able to explain to me why there's 0 on wine and why there's 10 on beer, but okay, it's still there. But then in Finland, it's 122 or something for a 4.7% beer. And that's crazy. Why would you have to pay so much tax on a glass of beer? It makes people go away, it makes people go to Tallinn, and only brewers who are able to bring their beers to Tallinn are then able to sell to Finnish consumers. So I think we should really have a strong fight, lower taxes, more information, and we're on your side with that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Margit. Really, really nice words you say. But you know that we have here in Finland, I think that sometimes our hands are really tight because of the laws and everybody's taking care of us. You know those caretakers. And you learned yesterday, you learned a new word. It is in Finnish, it's a terveystaliban, it's a healthy Talibans. And what we should do here? How should we campaign here?
Well, one of the things I'd like to do usually with the health Taliban, what I said, they are in the health business. And in the health business, usually you meet sick people. So that's your universe. You meet sick people. I think it's very, very important to stress that beer, drink in moderation, is drunk by the majority of the people. 85% of the people drink in moderation. So why should you punish the majority for some people who overconsume? So I think you should really focus and explain that the majority enjoys beer in moderation. And secondly, and Sati is a beautiful example of that, that beer is part of a normal cultural and social fabric of Finland. And even when drunk in moderation, fits in a healthy lifestyle. If you drink in moderation, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And we have here a campaign in social media, just like Tolkku campaign, Sense for Everything. Because people are sick and tired for those rules and stupid laws.
Well, let's take to the streets. Let's make some signs and go there. Now, for instance, in Great Britain, CAMERA, one of the sister organizations of Olut Suomi, they went to, it was against high taxation. They went to the parliament, and they went with 200,000 people. They went to parliament, and they said, now it's over, stop it. And we're not going to leave parliament until you drop the excise. And it happened. Well, they left a little bit earlier, but for the first time in about 50 years, Great Britain lowered its excise because there were consumers, and consumers are voters. Remember, you are the one who vote. So get as many friends and other people and say, why would we have to pay so much of the money we earn to the government only to enjoy a beer? And that's something you can do. Make mass actions, write to your politicians, and make it as broad as possible. Even people who are maybe not members of Olut Suomi, still fed up with paying too much tax to enjoy a good beer. So make as many people friends of what you do.
There are two words I almost always use. They are consumers' rights. We have the rights to have the beer diversity, but we don't have it because the legislation of 4.7. Because the brewers, they don't brew that kind of beers what we need or like to drink, and we have the rights to have a reasonable price, decent beers everywhere in Finland.
I agree totally, and it's a constant struggle. It's a constant struggle because there are people who fight and who only look at overconsumption, and it's not good overconsumption, of course not, but it's only a minority of the beer drinkers. So make clear that the majority of the voters and the majority of the consumers drink in moderation, enjoy their beer in moderation, and yes. You have to write on diversity, you have to write on information, and you should have to write on beer at an acceptable price.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions, please? We got 2 or 3 minutes left here. If somebody has some questions. Because you got to possibly ask time because we got the president of the European Beer Consumers Union here. Please come here, but...
Hello. What about beer styles in Netherlands, in Holland? Styles. Or beer culture in Netherlands?
You got one there, I know, that's Heineken. Well, yeah, the most important beer style in the Netherlands, well, I'll take it back. Now, the most important, like it is here, is Pils, is lager. And Heineken, of course, is all over the place. The other style we have is an autumn bock beer. So our seasonal beer is not for the winter, but it's for the autumn when the storms come and the water gets very high. So we almost run the risk of being drowned. We better have a good beer then. And we recently reinvented an old beer, which hasn't been brewed for 400 years. It's called Kuit. It's made with oats. And that's a beer that has been rediscovered and now becoming a real Dutch beer style. All the other styles are the generic European styles, like you see here as well. The wit beer, the Weizen, the IPAs, the stouts, stuff like that. But that's not typical Dutch. There are very good ones, but it's not typical Dutch.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Röhlin. You are here the whole week and maybe tomorrow too, but yesterday we had you until the light.